We are so pleased to be joined tonight on Prime by Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota. Senator, thank you so much for taking the time. It is now day 8 of the government shutdown. Democrats say that this is about Affordable Care Act subsidies that are set to expire at the end of the year. Americans are now starting to see more and more of the impacts of this shutdown. Now, you say Leader Schumer holds the keys to getting the government open. When was the last time the two of you spoke?
We spoke, I want to say maybe Friday last week. Obviously, our staffs talk on a regular basis, and if there's something that we need to talk about, we're both on the floor on a regular basis, and our offices are down the hallway from each other. But I think at this point, the issue, Lindsay, really is just getting the government open again. And once that happens, all these things that they want to have a conversation about, whether it's the ACA premium tax credits or any other issues, we're happy to do that. But holding the government hostage is not in the best interest, obviously, of the American people and certainly the federal workers who are very soon going to be missing paychecks if it doesn't open back up.
Are conversations ongoing between both sides?
Yeah, there are. I mean, there are a number of conversations that are going on, you know, individual members, senators, both sides, Republican and Democrat, who are having some discussions. But frankly, what we've said, and I've been very clear about this, we want to keep the government open. We want to keep the appropriations process going forward, which is what this is all about. And this is something that, as you know, we've done 13 times when the Democrats had the majority in the Senate and President Biden was in the White House. We did short-term continuing resolutions to buy some time to get the other funding bills across the finish line. This actually, having an open appropriations process is fairly novel compared to last year. Last year, the Senate Democrats had the majority. We didn't do a single appropriations bill. We've done 3. We want to do more. The funding resolution is about keeping that, you know, giving us the opportunity to finish the annual appropriations process in the way we should be doing it, transparent, open, through regular order. And obviously, the Dems are trying to attach a whole bunch of other things, including $1.5 trillion in new spending on top of the continuing resolution, something that would never pass to the House or the Senate or get signed into law by the White House. So we've got a very straightforward proposal out there, keep the government open, and then let's sit down and talk about these other issues.
As you know, Democrats say that they've been trying to have these conversations specifically about the Affordable Care Act subsidies for months at this point. They say that they're digging in now because Republicans can't be trusted to have these conversations in good faith later. Are they wrong?
I've made it very clear to both Democrats and Republicans that I'm open to having that conversation. I think, frankly, you know, the issue of the COVID tax credit cliff, the expiration date on that was created by the Democrats, and these are enhanced subsidies. We're not talking about the basic Obamacare exchange insurance plans here. We're talking about the enhancements that came as a result of something they did when they had the majorities to supposedly compensate for COVID, which is now over. But we're willing to have that conversation. The program needs to be reformed. There are no income caps on it. You can make $500,000 or $600,000 a year now and be eligible for subsidies under these enhanced, this enhanced premium tax credit program. So we think that there are things that we can do that need to be restructured, reworked. There's some other ideas that some of our colleagues have about how to make health care more affordable in this country, and I think it is an issue that is very, you know, ripe for a conversation. But it can't be in the context of having, holding the federal government hostage. We need to get the government open, let federal employees go back to work, and then we're more than happy to sit down with Democrats and talk about a path forward.
Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that she is not exactly a fan of the Affordable Care Act. She says she's very worried. In fact, in a post, she said, I'm going to go against everyone on this issue because when the tax credits expire this year, my own adult children's insurance premiums for 2026 are going to double, along with all the wonderful families and hardworking people in my district. What do you say to Americans who are struggling, who are saying that they can't withstand any increase in premiums for any amount of time?
Well, and obviously that doesn't happen until the end of the year. So we've got a little bit of a window here, and the continuing resolution that we put on the floor that passed the House, waiting action in the Senate, could be signed into law today by the President, is for 7 weeks. It gives us until November the 21st, and that gives us a window of opportunity to address that issue. Frankly, a lot of these insurance premiums are going up anyway because of base problems with the underlying Affordable Care Act, but the enhanced subsidies that were put in place as a result of COVID by the Democrats and the expiration date, which is at the end of the year, are all issues that we're willing, as I said, to have conversations about. How can we reform, strengthen that program, and make it a better return for the American taxpayers? Like I said, when you have people making $500,000 a year that are getting subsidies from the taxpayers for these these federal subsidies for these insurance plans, something might be a little bit amiss there. There are no income caps on it. There are a lot of what you call premium-free policies. In other words, nobody pays anything for it. They don't even know they have coverage. Insurance companies are incentivized to enroll people. They do that automatically, sometimes without the insured's knowledge. And so the subsidies are going directly from the government to the insurance companies. And as a result of that, last year you had almost, well, it was a little more than half of the people who were covered never filed a claim, because a lot of them don't even know they have coverage. So it's a program in need of reform and desperately in need of reform. And I think we can do that. We can work with our colleagues on the other side and with the White House, but that can't happen as long as the government is shut down.
For any furloughed federal worker at home watching this tonight, do you guarantee that they will get back pay when the government reopens?
I believe they will. I think that's the assumption I operate under, and I think that's what the law stipulates. I think the question of what happens if the shutdown continues over a long period of time is the administration will have to make decisions about different agencies and departments of government, what they're going to prioritize, and probably have to make some decisions about employment and workforce and that sort of thing. The way to end that is to open up the government. Then we don't have to worry about anybody not getting paid. And like I said, that could happen today. All it simply takes is for 5 Democrats to join the already 55 senators who are voting to keep the government open or to reopen the government, and we can send a bill to the president, he can sign it into law, and we'll be back in business, and then we can have that conversation about the health care issue.
Because that's where we are right now, I do want to just ask, and a number of people are concerned about that back pay. Have you reiterated that to the president? Because this is what he had to say yesterday, and I just want to play a clip.
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
So do you agree with the president, or have you told him that this is not what the government should be doing?
Well, I think that issue is fairly clear. I think the law and this is a law that we passed back in 2018 or 2019, is very clear about that. So again, it becomes a non-issue once the government opens up, which comes back to my fundamental first point and premise, and that is we need 5 Democrats to work with us to join the 55 senators, a majority of the 100 United States senators that have already voted to keep the government open. 5 more do it. The bill goes to the president, gets signed into law, and nobody has to deal with any question about whether they're going to get paid or not.
This morning we saw former FBI Director James Comey pleading not guilty to federal charges. It came after the President of the United States publicly pressured the AG to prosecute Comey, and then she did. Do you think that that's appropriate?
Look, I think that it wasn't just her, it was a grand jury that indicted him. And there are 2 counts. He will have his day in court like any other American. And if he is not guilty, I'm sure he'll be acquitted. But I trust the judicial process on this. And obviously there are serious questions about things he said and did a few years back, so much so that at the time the Senate Judiciary Committee launched an investigation into that as well. And so we'll see what comes back out of it. But remember, this is, yes, you could say it's the Justice Department, but it's also a grand jury, jury of his peers who looked at the evidence and said this needs to proceed. So he'll have his day in court.
President Trump has sent, as you know, the National Guard into Chicago against the wishes of the mayor and governor there. Now he's saying the mayor and governor should be thrown in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Any issue with that?
Well, I'm not, nobody's going to jail over this issue, but the people who commit criminal acts. And I think that in the case of Portland, probably to some degree in Chicago as well, I know at least for sure in Portland, the request was made from the Department of Homeland Security because they felt that their law enforcement officials, their employees, were being threatened. And so the president has the authority under current law to protect federal property, federal employees, federal law enforcement officials, and I think that's the issue with respect to Portland. But any of these cities where you've got as much violence, and Chicago is a good example, I would think you would want help. And if you're a citizen living in Chicago who is faced with the reality of crime on the streets on a daily basis, I would welcome that. But these mayors and governors in some cases have dug in. I think they're on the wrong side of this issue. I think crime and law enforcement are issues that the American people care deeply about. They want to live in safe and secure communities. And so, I think the president, particularly with regard to the request that was made by the Department Department of Homeland Security in Portland is certainly within his rights as the Commander-in-Chief to take the action he took.
Back in April, you said, and I want to quote you here, our job is to do what we can to support the president and his agenda, but, be that important check and balance, too, that the founders intended. How would you say that Senate Republicans are doing on being that check on President Trump today?
Well, I mean, I think that it depends on the issue, but I could name countless occasions in the last several months where there have been differences of opinion, and sometimes we don't always express those through the press publicly, but we have our conversations with the White House, with the president and his team, and yes, he has an agenda that he was elected to enact on behalf of the American people, and we need to be good partners in trying to achieve that agenda, and I think we've done that. But there are occasions where some of us, sometimes obviously privately, sometimes more publicly, push back. But obviously we're a co-equal and independent branch of the government, the Article I branch of the government. One of the things we have is the power of the purse. One of the things we have is the power of oversight through congressional committees. And I think those are being used in a way that ensures that we keep that important check and balance between the various branches of our government.
Majority Leader Thune, we so appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Lindsay.